All right, what's up, everybody? How's everyone doing? How's everyone doing today? Anyone here? Knock, knock. What's up, Theo? How you doing? Yo, what's up, Dave? How you doing? Yeah, doing well. No complaints. Yeah, from my perspective, things seemingly keep getting better and better. No complaints. Tech issues seem to be slowing down, so that's really positive. So yeah, I'm a happy guy. Thanks for asking. Who wants to kick things off here? Who's got the first question for us today? What do we got here? Who wants to kick it off? Sup, scalping strategy? Hey, no such thing as a bad question here. It's the whole point, right, of this chat. So fire away. Right? We're here. The point of these is we can ask basically whatever, however, whenever, when there's a low pressure environment, right? So during the trading day, sometimes things can move a little bit fast and we don't get our time. So this is your opportunity to get every single possible question, anxiety, issue solved and taken care of. Yeah, great question. So you're trying to understand at what point does a setup / confirmation become invalid? There's two things that can make a setup invalid. So one, we get volume that's larger than the confirmation candle, right? So good example here right in front of us this morning, right? If this 1114 is really high volume and that's great, and then the subsequent candle is larger volume than that confirmation, that would invalidate it. The other thing then that invalidates our confirmation, right, is if we get a close under the low or the high. So in a bullish example, right, if this candle hypothetically, right, had decreasing volume but closed under 29.42, that would also invalidate our signal. So we want to make sure that we don't see more buyers or more sellers than our original thesis, and we want to make sure that the strength that was established actually holds. Make sense? What else we got here? Anything else? Like I said, I feel like I got to get a model on here so you guys start asking her questions, and then I can answer. Yeah, right. So on a long, we don't want it closing under the low, right? On a short, we don't want it closing above the high. Let's stack up a couple questions here, team. What else we got? Yeah, getting stuck in no man's land is a brutal place to be, right? Just chops you up and spits you out, and then you hate yourself for it. So let price action determine where it is. We don't need to be first, right? We want to catch a bite of the juicy middle. We don't need to try to call a top or call a bottom. It's not worth it. What's the question there, Dave? Kind of sounds like a statement. I mean, this gave you a reversal setup here, right? So that 11-16 candle, right? That's a textbook reversal setup. You maybe would have had a bit of an opportunity there. But I think at that point, you're probably grasping at straws a little bit. Look, Dave, what I would say, right, about entries in general, while I wait for you to turn that statement into a question, is if you're happy with your risk at the reference price, why do you need to look for an even deeper discount than that, right? So, there has to be a fine line there where you get used to entering trades where you're supposed to. Once you have the muscle memory down of entering trades at your price, then you focus on trying to find that discount and getting a better entry. But if you're going to just miss trades and you're going to skip your wins effectively, right, you're kind of in a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario, right? Where you're going to second guess then everything. Then the next trade that happens, you're going to jump the gun, maybe jump in too early. You're going to get stopped out on that trade or whatever happens. And you're just going to create an element of confusion. So we talk about this all the time, right? Especially with you. Got to create scenarios that are binaries. Yes, no's. You can't trust your feelings. You're not smarter than the market. I can't trust my feelings. I'm not smarter than the market. So we have to stop trying to outsmart ourselves because it simply doesn't work long term. So if you're looking to buy a deeper discount because you're uncomfortable with your risk, that's telling you you need to size down. And if you're unwilling to enter the trade at the reference price because you're waiting for XYZ, then you're not being specific enough about what you're looking for to enter. And if you're relying on it to feel right to click submit, you're always going to miss it because that feeling is going to lie to you and it's going to change on a day-by-day basis. So yesterday, what time frame? 2 min and 1326. No, because there's no failed breakout above the high, right? So there's no bearish failure above the high a day, so it wouldn't be a setup trigger there to the downside. At least not based on my rules. Increasing volume isn't enough, right? We're not just chasing increasing volume candles. We're looking for increasing volume after our setup trigger. So we only care about increasing volume if it's basically supported by our thesis. Yeah, the hardest part about trading is finding your edge. The second hardest part of trading is executing it consistently. Spot on. Yeah, you don't know what a good entry is though, right, Dave? So again, turn it into a binary. Stop relying on your feelings. The more that you make decisions based on this feels right or this feels wrong, the more you're going to confuse yourself. So again, right, if you're happy with your risk, what are you actually afraid of? If you're afraid of being wrong, then you're not happy with your risk, right? But a good entry isn't just having, like, dude, we're risking 10 points a trade, 10 points a trade on something that's 29,000 points, right? We're not even risking 1% here of the move. So at some point, right, how small can we go, right? There has to be a reasonable benchmark there. A good entry is one that you catch that is green and is green nearly right away. And if you're missing your entries because you're looking for some magical number, right? You're looking for 5 points instead of 10, you're setting yourself up to miss a lot of entries. And if you're trying to cut your risk in half because that makes you feel more calm, that's telling you that your sizing is too big at 10 points. Like, guys, I don't think you comprehend how difficult it is to identify an entry within 10 points of what we're looking at, right? So, how many times can you split a grain of sand into two, right? Like, you got to find that balance better. Yeah, but it's seemingly one contract, right, is still too much. So think about micros. Because if you're hesitating at 10 points, right, and you're looking for 7 or you're looking for 5 or you're looking for 4 or whatever it is, your risk is too much where you don't feel confident clicking that button, or you live and die with that result too much that clicking that button is catastrophic. In general, team, 90% of your psychological issues as a trader can be fixed by sizing down. And that just means, letting your ego kind of die a little bit, putting it to the side, and not viewing sizing down as a death sentence, right? You size down so that you can prove to yourself that you can execute your technique. Once you can prove to yourself that you can execute your technique, then you can gamify scaling up and adding sizing. Just because I'm trading 10 contracts or just because I'm trading 5 contracts or just because I'm trading 1 contract doesn't mean you have to do that too. You have to do selfishly what's best for you and your account. And if you can't put your ego aside, you're not being selfish enough in your decision-making process. So yesterday, for example, red day, didn't feel great. Generally what my routine is I like to do something that is fitness based because you get a good dopamine feeling, right, from exercising. So for me, for every $1,000 I lose, I go do some hill sprints. So if I lose $1,000, right, I do one hill sprint. If I lose $20,000, I do 20. And I basically make myself feel more pain exercising than the pain I felt trading. And then I come home, I throw on maybe a TV show or a sports game or something like that, eat something good for dinner, and then try to go to bed early. Like last night, I went to bed at like 8:15 in the evening. So it's do something to reset that dopamine, which for me is exercise. Remind myself that my world isn't over by getting a nice meal and kind of rewarding myself that way. And then make sure I go to bed early so that I'm refreshed and recharged for the following day. like if I'm going to have a loss, I want to make sure that I find ways to win, right? Outside of the day. So a good win is exercise, right? Good win is eating a good meal. A good win is like, detoxing in front of your favorite TV show or whatever it might be. So those are kind of my things. And then for me, sleep is incredibly important. So getting to bed on time, making sure I'm relaxed, that sort of stuff. And those are non-negotiables, right? So I don't even think about it. If I tell myself I'm going to do it, I have to do it. I have no choice. So it's like you practice the discipline in another area that you want to see take hold in your trading. P&L is a lagging indicator, right? Doesn't show up first. But I would probably disagree a little bit with that assessment, Dave, based on what you said here earlier, right? You said that you were feeling better about your entries in January and February, and now you've regressed on those. So, kind of seems like maybe you've reverted back to the mean a little bit, changed something in your process, and that's what's keeping your P&L kind of down where it doesn't belong. What else we got here, team? Any other questions? Any other venting therapy you guys want to go through? Let's fire through it. Oh, maybe sometimes the playlist, I forget to update it, but yeah, they're all recorded on YouTube. So I can get that fixed. No problem. That's 5 seconds. Yeah, I'll get that. I probably could do it right now. Give me a sec. Yeah, it looks like it's all in the right playlist, truth be told. Right. There was a week off there, so. All right. Everything from May 11th onward should be back in it now. Therapy never ends, Dave. Yes, I just added them to the playlist. What else we got here, team? Any other questions? All right, enjoy. I mean, they're there, Dave. They're all there. What else we got? On average, about like 250 people a day kind of watch me trade, something along those lines. Yeah, I mean, Connie, I want you to upload where you find value from your data, right? So the journal exists so that you can have all the information you need to become the best trader you can be. You got to export your trading history. And then you just upload it like an email attachment. Man, how'd you lose that much? Crazy. Why didn't you walk away? If there's enough demand for it, I'm sure we could put all the stats and all the features that are in the DTR Trading Journal directly on the DTF Hub. Sure, that'd be easy enough. All right, stack up a few more questions here, please. What else we got? It's the web trader. Yeah. Yeah, this coming Monday, markets are closed. So, probably better to take a lie-in than, try to trade something that isn't there. But we've added support, right? So that you can still download your trading history. So it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Yeah, markets will be open on Tuesday, and I'm sure I'll trade unless I get, hit by a bus or mauled by a bear. I would say either one of those are pretty unlikely, considering I already got hit by a car this year. So I think we'll probably be okay. Yeah, Tuesdays and Thursdays we do was it 5:30, 8:30? Ah man. If I make myself laugh, Dave, that's all that matters. I'm a sick fuck. No, we did not. You can just convert it, right, Connie? Shouldn't be that hard to convert a file. If you send me the specific file you're trying to upload, I can add support to that on the website. No, they didn't find the piece of shit who did a runner. Good times. That's annoying, but honestly, not too fussed. That guy's gonna have some bad karma, or that woman, or that it is gonna have bad karma coming their way. I don't need to worry about that. I don't know. I have basically like a 10 to 15 minute memory hole of that event. Yeah, you'd think so. But in the mountains, I guess the coverage is poor. I don't know. We don't need to talk about that, you're right. Like that was what, 2 months ago now? Like who cares? No, I would say it never gets easy because avoiding your self sabotage never is easy, right? So you can learn the strategy and you can get the muscle memory down, and that's something that you can pick up in a week or two. But it's just the learning how to protect yourself from yourself, avoiding your obvious mistakes. That's a lifelong pursuit. So for me, trading is self improvement gamified. And the problem with that, right, is, what got you to one level is not what's going to get you to the next one. So you constantly have to learn new skills. You constantly have to replace bad habits. You constantly have to fix these things. And that's always going to be uncomfortable. Now, you can get addicted to that, right? And you can start to find a lot of joy and pleasure in it, but it doesn't mean it'll be easy. And in the same way, right? Not easy to be undisciplined or to chase your trades or to do whatever. You're just more used to basically succumbing to that dopamine and rewarding those behaviors that it feels normal and natural. But that's just because your habits are in the way, and it takes time and effort to fix those things. And it takes time and effort to maintain that right discipline. Look, if trading was easy and it was just as simple as, I found 3 indicators and they always tell me what's going to happen, everyone would make a ton of money. Everyone would be super rich and we'd all live on islands already, but it's not the reality. And if you want to be in the top 1% of anything, right? Like, I don't think I've ever met a trader who, once they start making money, is like happy making 65 grand a year, right? So if you want to be at the top 1% earner in your field in any discipline, right? Being a top 1% lawyer, a top 1% Uber driver, a top 1% architect or engineer or whatever it might be, that's always going to be difficult. So if you want an extraordinary outcome, it requires an extraordinary amount of work. You know, one of my favorite, maybe it's lies I tell myself, but if I want to be in the top 1%, I can't behave like 99% of other people. And most people confuse easy with what they're used to, and they get stuck on that word. You know, choose your hard, right? Either have the pain of regret in the moment or the pain of regret 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years from now, whatever it is. Who knows with science? So never gets easier. Gets more rewarding, gets more fun. And you get more used to fixing your problems. And so it feels, I don't know, it feels different, but you got to choose your hard, right? It's hard to drive an Uber 12 hours a day and make $250. It's hard to stick to your process, follow your rules, even when everything in your fiber is telling you, no, don't do it. You're better than this. So choose your hard. I've yet to meet someone who's become a millionaire from driving Uber, right? Met lots of people who've made millions trading. I mean, I don't really know how to answer that question, Dave. Best habits don't exist because they're reliant on you. You know, the thing that I tell everyone, do this for 100 days and you actually follow the advice. Ask yourself after each trade, what's one thing I did well? What's one thing I did wrong? What's one thing I can improve tomorrow? Do that for your next 100 days, every single trade you take, and I guarantee you, you'll be a lot better of a trader than you are now. There is no right way or wrong way of doing that. You just have to do it. So, like, for me to tell you, oh, you got to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you got to do 20 pull-ups and then have a mushroom coffee and then slap yourself in the face and then go for a run and then you're ready to go trade and then whatever. Like, it's not how it is. You have to make trading work for you, not try to shoehorn your way into trying to be someone else. Talked about this a little bit on the stream this morning, right? but behaving how you said you're going to behave, executing your trading plan, following your rules, it's a form of self-love, right? It's showing respect to yourself. It's proving to yourself that you can fulfill your potential. If that isn't a big enough why, then unfortunately we don't have anything in common, right? So you got to find a way to make that work for you. You got to find a way to pursue that. You got to find a way to execute that version of self-love. No one else can do that for you. There is no formula. It's all dependent on you and your brain chemistry. So be selfish. Do what you think is best for yourself. Learn from those decisions, change your plan, improve it. But it's not like, you set your alarm at 5 o'clock in the morning, all of a sudden you're going to become a profitable trader. No, that's not how it works. Well, that's kind of the goal of day trader funding. I don't know if I necessarily see the value of running a hedge fund. Yeah, like it's not something necessarily very appealing to me. I spent 7 years working in that world and I learned a tremendous amount. But everyone who I saw who was a lifer in that space, they all hated themselves. They were all miserable. They were all on wife number 3, didn't talk to their kids, could only talk about trading or the markets or business. Like they lacked depth and character and personality. They were tortured souls. So that left a very big impact on me. I don't believe that. I don't believe that would create me any joy. So when I suggest scaling up your position sizing, I would never tell you to go from trading 1 contract to trading 5 contracts. That's the wrong way to do it. You're taking too big of a jump there, right? A 500% leap is massive. The way you want to do it is gamify it. So let's say you're struggling with your entries, right? And you're missing trades, you're not catching your wins or whatever it is. And you look at your trades from that week and you answer those questions, right? What's one thing I did well? What's one thing I can improve? What's one thing I can focus on for tomorrow? Find, all the what's one thing I can improve, see what the pattern is and turn that into rules, right? So now, okay, every time it goes under my reference price, I got an entry better than my reference price. I didn't talk myself out of a trade if it was in my reference price zone and I didn't take it, why or why not? And gamify it. So at the end of the week, if you caught 90% of your trades that you were supposed to catch, amazing, right? You've proven to yourself that you can stomach the risk. And then now you can add a contract and basically repeat that process. And then repeat that process until you're at 3, and then you're at 4, and then you're at 5, and then you're at 10. So you want to give yourself a process-based objective to increase your sizing and prove to yourself that you can actually handle that extra psychological pressure. We don't need to go from 0 to 100 in 5 seconds. It's better to take the long path than the fast path, because when you try to take the fast path, 1, you just get burnt out way faster. You end up losing all your energy, all your spirit. Everything feels like it's going really, really well. And then all of a sudden it isn't, and your feet get washed out from underneath you and you face plant pretty hard. If you can avoid that sensation, you're probably going to feel a lot more confident in growing, and you'll actually build and improve your psychology so that you can stomach that extra pressure. But like personally, I think people misinterpret the power of how much one contract can actually do for you, right? Even if you're just making, I don't know, 50 grand a year, right? With a 150K account, that's still a 30% return. You still outperformed the market by what, 100%, 120% maybe. If you do that for a couple years, you'll never be poor again for the rest of your life. So don't get caught up in this idea that you got to do 1,000% on year one, otherwise you're a failure. If you can do 12%, you've outperformed the market. If you can outperform the market consistently, you will be very, very rich. So this like idea that I got to make $1 billion right away, that clouds your mind. It slows you down. It's like every time you hit a speed bump, it's like you hit a brick wall. And that's not sustainable. Most of people's trading problems occur because they try to do something that should take them a long time and they try to do it very quickly. And then because they aren't able to accomplish an outlier objective as soon as possible, they set themselves up for failure, right? Their mindset put them in the scenario where they couldn't win. And then when they inevitably can't win, they didn't realize that they set themselves an impossible task. And now the worst elements of your trading come out and kind of bite you in the ass. Any other questions here, team? Any other questions? Hey, sounds good. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right, team. Final call for questions here. Final call for questions. All right, team. Well, if no further questions, I'm going to kill the stream, for the day. Have yourselves all a fantastic rest of the afternoon. We'll be back at it again tomorrow, 6:15 Pacific, 9:15 Eastern. We'll attack it with intensity then. Have yourselves a great day. Talk to you later.